A very common thing that happens when you do in-home sales or sell home improvements is you get the dreaded, I need to get 3 estimates, or I never buy anything without getting 3 estimates. The issue that makes this confusing is that it could mean different things depending on the customer, and therefore has different causes and different ways to handle it. Some you can handle when you hear it, and in other cases, the root cause is something you did before you got to that point. I want to get 3 estimates is usually one of 3 different things. Please listen to all 3 different meanings and how to handle them. The first thing is that it's just a blow-off. It's just a nice way of them saying no to you. Translation, they're not sold, and this is their polite way of telling you they're not buying, and bye-bye. One thing you may have noticed if you sell home improvements or sell anything in the home is that very rarely do people actually come out and say no to you. Think about that. When's the last time somebody just came out and said, you're overpriced, I hate your products, and/or I don't believe or like you and I'm never doing it? Do you think that's not possible that this ever happens? The reality is you know that's the case sometimes, but they're usually polite and give you gentle excuses like, well, I'll have to get back to, I have to talk to my mother, or I always get 3 estimates. They rarely just come out and say no. They're trying to be nice and don't want you pressuring them into something they don't really want. What makes this business challenging is not only do they not come out and tell you no to your offer, but because of this, you don't really know why they're not buying, so you can improve your sales presentation for the future. I would actually appreciate an honest no and why, so at least I knew where I stood and how to improve. If this is the reason for the I always get 3 estimates, the real issue is your sales presentation. The second and more common way of looking at I have to get 3 estimates is that it's just the initial smokescreen that people always give you at the beginning of the closing process. It's almost like the first, well, I'm going to need to think about it, that you hear when you first deliver the price. How many times have you sold people where the first thing they said when you gave them the price was that they needed to think about it? In most cases, it means the close is just starting. You then need to get past that and get to the real objection, which if you've done your sales presentation correctly is going to be the money. People always ask me, well, how do I handle the objection? I need to get 3 estimates. But to me, it's not really an objection. Again, it's a smokescreen, like when someone says, I need to think about it. Do you really know why they aren't doing it? How can you handle something if you don't know what it is? Look at it like this. If you ask someone to marry you and they said, well, I'm going to have to think about it, or I have to always get in 3 relationships before I can commit to marrying, would you think that was a valid objection? Or would you just think it was a fancy way of them saying no to you? Do you actually know what the real objection is? Is she not in love with you? Already married? Or just not sure yet? Same thing here, you don't really know what's going on. In most cases, getting 3 estimates doesn't tell you the real reason why they aren't doing it. So in order to solve the problem, you need to know what the real objection is. If you've done your sales presentation correctly, which means they want your product and think it's worth it, the real objection is usually the money. What you need to do is learn to turn that smokescreen into the objection, which is the money. That's why you often hear trainers tell you that you need to bring it to the money. There are many ways and styles to do this, but here's an example of how I would handle it. So other than getting 3 estimates, do you have any other concerns? No? Do you mind if I give you a suggestion or something you can think about after I leave? Sure. Well, getting 3 estimates really doesn't apply to home improvements. You see, when you buy gas, you always get estimates because if you see 3 gas stations and one station has gas for $3, the other is $4, and the other is $5 a gallon, you're going to get the $3 gallon gas, right? That's because all the gas is the same. But every time you buy home improvements or you're buying a new window, you're getting different construction techniques, you're getting a different company, and you're getting different materials. Now, from what I've shown you, is this the window construction, the materials, and the installation that you want for your home? Well, yes, it is. Well, we're the only ones who do it that way. Here's another thought. If these windows weren't $15,000, but they were $8,000, would you still be getting other estimates, or would you be hiring us? Oh, well, at $8,000, I'd hire you. So it really has nothing to do with you getting estimates. It just comes down to the money like it always does, right? Yeah, I guess so. So other than the money, are these definitely the windows you want? One thing to keep in mind if you're dealing with I want to get 3 estimates is that you have to handle it relatively quickly. That's because the more you fumble around it, the more it causes them to dig in the wrong way. For example, they say, Ron, I really appreciate your time, but I always get 3 estimates before I do anything. Well, why do you have to get 3 estimates? Because I've always gotten 3 estimates. So do you mean every single thing you've bought in your life, you've always gotten 3 estimates? Yes, everything. Well, don't you like the product? Yeah, but like I told you, I always get 3 estimates. Well, what if I could save you some more money? Well, like I told you, I always get 3 estimates, and that's just the way I was raised. See, every time you do that, it forces them to recommit their stand in the wrong direction. You keep getting them to say, I always get 3 estimates over and over. If you keep doing that, you could tell them it was $1 and they still wouldn't do it because they'd almost be losing face to backtrack on something you made them say so many times was the rule of their life. The third thing about 3 estimates that I hate to admit, but there's some people that are very stubborn and it may actually be something that is their life code and they abide by it. No exaggeration, I've actually had people tell me it was part of their religion. It could be something their parents told them to do, but more likely it's because they were burned before and it made them so bitter that they made this personal promise to themselves. These are people that I actually think that even if it was $1, still wouldn't do it. I'm hesitant to bring this up because then weaker salespeople use it as a crutch to not accept responsibility for the results. Now, to be fair, I usually allow 1 out of 100 people who say that to actually fall into that category. I don't want someone saying I'm being unreasonable. The other 99%, when they say I need to get 3 estimates, are just not sold, or you need to peel back the layers to get what the real objection is. And if your sales presentation is done right, that should just be about bringing the objection to the money. If you're interested, look in the description below for a link to another video I have on bringing it to the money and how I handle that. Think about this. Even if you were planning on getting 3 estimates on something you were going to buy, and the first person you talked to, you honestly believed had something you knew would solve your problems and did everything you wanted, you honestly believed it was a fair price, and that you 100% believe you were getting a great deal, would you still be looking around or just make the purchase? I think you know the answer. The key here is that you believed. Pro tip, a lot of times when I first get there and they tell me they definitely aren't going to buy anything that night and they're getting 3 estimates, it's actually a big time buying sign.